The humid buffalo air hung heavy, thick with the scent of coal smoke and roasted peanuts, a strange olfactory tapestry woven across the grounds of the Pan-American Exposition. September 6th, 1901. A day poised on the precipice of history, a day shimmering with the promise of technological advancement and unprecedented American prosperity. President William McKinley, a figure carved from granite and draped in the Star-Spangled Banner, stood at the Temple of Music, his presence a beacon amidst the throngs of well-wishers. He exuded an aura of paternal confidence, a man who believed, with every fibre of his being, in the inherent goodness of the American people, in the inexorable march of progress. A progress he, in no small measure, had helped to orchestrate. He had ushered in an era of unprecedented economic growth, navigated the treacherous waters of international relations with cautious diplomacy, and championed the gold standard, a cornerstone of his administration's fiscal policy. He was, in the eyes of many, the very embodiment of the American dream, a testament to hard work, honest dealing, and unwavering faith in the nation's destiny. His gaze swept across the assembled crowd, a sea of faces reflecting the diverse tapestry of the nation. Farmers from the Midwest, industrialists from the East Coast, immigrants eager to embrace the American ideal, all united in their admiration for the man who led them into this new century. He saw in their eyes the reflection of his own aspirations, a vision of a united, prosperous and powerful America, a nation destined to lead the world into a future of peace and progress. He smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes and extended his hand to the first in line, a gesture of accessibility, a symbol of his commitment to the common man, a gesture that, unbeknownst to him, would seal his fate. The line moved slowly, a procession of handshakes and polite greetings. McKinley, ever the consummate politician, engaged each person with genuine interest, asking about their families, their businesses, their hopes for the future. He listened intently, offering words of encouragement and support, making each individual feel valued and heard. The air thrummed with anticipation, a palpable sense of excitement that bordered on euphoria. The exposition itself was a marvel of engineering and ingenuity, a testament to the boundless creativity and technological prowess of the American people. Towering structures illuminated by thousands of electric lights cast an ethereal glow across the grounds. Exhibits showcased the latest advancements in agriculture, manufacturing and transportation, and music filled the air, a vibrant soundtrack to the unfolding spectacle. It was a celebration of progress, a glimpse into the future, and a validation of the American experiment. But beneath the surface of this shimmering crucible of progress, a dark current flowed, a current of discontent and resentment, fueled by social inequality, economic hardship, and political radicalism. The seeds of dissent had been sown, and they were about to sprout in the most unexpected and devastating way. Leon Czolgosz, a young man with haunted eyes and a troubled past, stood patiently in line, his hand concealed within a white handkerchief. He was an anarchist, a believer in the overthrow of all forms of government, a disciple of violence and revolution. He saw McKinley not as a symbol of progress and prosperity, but as a symbol of oppression and injustice, a representative of a corrupt and exploitative system that condemned millions to poverty and despair. He had come to Buffalo with a singular purpose: to assassinate the president and strike a blow against the forces of tyranny. He clutched the Ivor Johnson .32 caliber revolver hidden beneath the handkerchief, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He was terrified, yet determined, filled with doubt, yet convinced that he was acting in the name of justice. He had spent weeks planning this moment, rehearsing his actions in his mind, steeling himself for the inevitable consequences. He knew that he would likely be killed or captured, but he was willing to sacrifice his life for the cause he believed in. He was a martyr in the making, a revolutionary ready to ignite the flames of rebellion. As he neared the president, his resolve hardened. His grip tightened on the revolver. He fixed his gaze on McKinley's face, studying his features, memorizing his expression. He wanted to remember this moment forever, the moment when he would change the course of history. He reached the front of the line, his hand outstretched, his eyes locked on McKinley's. The president smiled, his hand outstretched in greeting. This was it, the moment of truth, the culmination of weeks of planning and preparation. Czolgosz took a deep breath and steeled himself. The world seemed to slow down, the sounds of the crowd fading into a distant hum. He could feel the weight of the revolver in his hand, the sweat on his brow, the pounding of his heart. He was ready. He was ready to strike a blow for freedom. He was ready to become a legend. The air crackled with tension, the moment hanging suspended in time. The fate of the nation rested on the actions of this one man, this lone assassin, this harbinger of chaos. The handshake was perfunctory, almost anticlimactic. McKinley, ever gracious, offered a polite greeting, his attention already drifting to the next in line. Czolgosz, his face a mask of barely suppressed agitation, mumbled a reply, his hand lingering slightly longer than necessary. It was in that fleeting moment of contact, that infinitesimal hesitation, that the world changed. The white handkerchief parted, revealing the cold metallic glint of the revolver. 2 shots rang out, sharp and deafening, shattering the illusion of peace and prosperity. The air filled with the acrid smell of gunpowder. The crowd erupted in chaos. The temple of music transformed into a scene of pandemonium. McKinley staggered backward, his face contorted in pain and disbelief. He clutched at his abdomen, his white shirt quickly staining crimson. His eyes, moments before filled with warmth and optimism, now reflected a mixture of shock and confusion. He looked down at his blood-soaked hands, his expression one of utter bewilderment. It couldn't be happening. Not here, not now, not to him. He had dedicated his life to serving his country, to building a better future for all Americans. He had worked tirelessly to promote peace, prosperity, and progress. He had always believed in the inherent goodness of the American people. He had always trusted in their wisdom and their judgment. How could this happen? How could someone want to harm him? How could someone betray his trust? The crowd surged forward, a mass of panicked bodies pushing and shoving, desperate to escape the perceived danger. Screams filled the air, mingling with the cries of the wounded and the shouts of security guards. The carefully orchestrated scene of celebration had devolved into a scene of utter chaos. The shimmering crucible of progress had been shattered by the violence of a single misguided act. Czolgosz, his deed done, stood frozen in place, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. He had expected to be immediately killed by the crowd, but instead he was surrounded by a ring of security guards, their guns drawn, their faces grim. He offered no resistance, surrendering peacefully to his fate. He had accomplished his mission. He had struck a blow against the forces of tyranny. He was ready to face the consequences. He was ready to die a martyr. The security guards wrestled him to the ground, their knees pressing into his back, their hands cuffing his wrists. He remained silent, his expression stoic, his eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding around him. He had hoped to spark a revolution, to inspire others to rise up against the oppressive system. But all he had accomplished was to shatter the peace and prosperity of the nation, to plunge the country into mourning and uncertainty. He wondered if he had made a mistake, if his actions had been justified, if his sacrifice had been worth it. But it was too late now. The deed was done. The consequences were irreversible. McKinley, supported by his aides, was rushed to a nearby ambulance, his face pale and drawn. He was still conscious, but his breathing was shallow and laboured. He knew that he was seriously wounded, but he tried to remain calm, to reassure those around him. He had faced adversity before. He had overcome challenges and obstacles throughout his life. He was a fighter. He was a survivor. He would not let this defeat him. He would not let this act of violence destroy the progress he had worked so hard to achieve. He would recover. He would return to his duties. He would continue to lead the nation towards a brighter future. But as the ambulance sped towards the hospital, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed, that the world had shifted on its axis, that the future was no longer as certain as it had seemed just moments before. He closed his eyes, his mind racing, his heart heavy with a sense of foreboding. He knew that his life was in danger, but he was more concerned about the fate of the nation. He worried about the divisions and resentments that had led to this act of violence. He worried about the future of American democracy. He prayed for peace, for unity, for healing. He prayed that the nation would emerge from this crisis stronger and more resilient than ever before. The ambulance arrived at the emergency room, and McKinley was quickly transferred to a waiting operating table. The doctors and nurses worked feverishly to stabilize his condition, their faces grim with concern. They knew that his injuries were severe, that his chances of survival were slim, but they were determined to do everything they could to save his life. They were not just treating a patient, they were treating the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, the symbol of American democracy. They were fighting for his life, but they were also fighting for the future of the nation. The operating room was a hive of activity, a symphony of beeping machines, hurried footsteps and hushed voices. The air was thick with the smell of antiseptic and blood. The doctors worked with precision and skill, their movements fluid and efficient. They removed the bullets from McKinley's abdomen, repaired the damaged tissues, and closed the wounds. The surgery was long and arduous, but they managed to stabilize his condition. They were cautiously optimistic that he would survive, but they knew that the next few days would be critical. He would need to rest, to recover his strength, to fight off infection. They would monitor him closely, providing him with the best possible care. They would do everything they could to help him heal. As the sun set over Buffalo, casting long shadows across the city, McKinley lay in his hospital bed, his life hanging in the balance. The nation held its breath, waiting for news of his condition. The world watched in anticipation, wondering what the future held. The assassination attempt had shaken the nation to its core, exposing the deep divisions and resentments that simmered beneath the surface of American society. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that democracy was fragile, that freedom was not free, that progress could be easily derailed by violence and hatred. The nation needed to heal, to unite, to reaffirm its commitment to the values of peace, justice, and equality. The assassination attempt had been a tragedy, but it could also be an opportunity to learn from the past, to address the challenges of the present, and to build a better future for all Americans. The fate of the nation rested on the shoulders of its leaders, its citizens, and its ideals. The future was uncertain, but the hope remained that America would emerge from this crisis stronger and more resilient than ever before. News of the assassination attempt spread like wildfire across the nation, igniting a maelstrom of shock, disbelief, and outrage. Telegraph wires hummed with urgent dispatches, newspaper presses churned out extra editions, and word of mouth carried the grim tidings to every corner of the land. Flags were lowered to half-staff, businesses closed their doors, and church bells tolled mournfully, casting a pall of sorrow over the nation. People gathered in the streets, their faces etched with worry and fear, their voices hushed with a sense of collective grief. They spoke of McKinley with reverence and affection, remembering his years of service, his unwavering commitment to the nation, and his genuine compassion for the common man. They prayed for his recovery, hoping against hope that he would pull through this ordeal and continue to lead the nation. But beneath the surface of public mourning, a current of anxiety and uncertainty began to stir. The assassination attempt had exposed the fragility of the American political system, the vulnerability of its leaders, and the deep divisions that simmered beneath the veneer of national unity. Questions were asked, fingers were pointed, and blame was assigned. Some accused the anarchists of inciting violence and hatred. Others blamed the wealthy industrialists for exploiting the working class, and still others criticised the government for failing to address the social and economic inequalities that fueled resentment and unrest. The nation was searching for answers, for a scapegoat, for a way to make sense of the senseless act of violence that had shattered its peace and prosperity. Vice President Theodore Roosevelt, a man of boundless energy and ambition, was summoned from his vacation in the Adirondack Mountains to assume the mantle of leadership. He arrived in Buffalo with a somber expression and a steely resolve, determined to reassure the nation and to maintain the continuity of government. He visited McKinley at the hospital, offering words of encouragement and support, promising to carry on his policies and to uphold his legacy. He met with cabinet members, congressional leaders, and business executives, seeking their advice and cooperation, forging a consensus on how to respond to the crisis. He declared a national day of mourning, calling on all Americans to unite in prayer and remembrance. He vowed to hunt down the anarchists and to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. He promised to restore order and stability to the nation. But beneath his outward display of confidence and strength, Roosevelt harboured a deep sense of unease. He knew that he was stepping into the shoes of a giant, that he would be judged by the standards of his predecessor, and that he faced a daunting task in leading the nation through this crisis. He worried about his own abilities, his own qualifications, his own readiness to assume the presidency. He wondered if he was up to the challenge. He doubted himself, his instincts, his judgment. But he knew that he could not afford to show weakness, that he had to project an image of strength and decisiveness, that he had to inspire confidence in the American people. He resolved to do his best, to learn from his mistakes, and to serve the nation to the best of his ability. He would not let McKinley down. He would not let the nation down. He would not let the anarchists win. Meanwhile, Leon Czolgosz sat in his jail cell awaiting trial, his fate sealed. He showed no remorse for his actions, no regret for his crime. He believed that he had done what was necessary, that he had struck a blow for freedom, that he had sacrificed himself for the cause of justice. He remained defiant, unrepentant, and unwavering in his beliefs. He refused to cooperate with the authorities, refusing to reveal the names of his accomplices or the details of his plot. He wanted to be seen as a lone wolf, a self-made assassin, a symbol of resistance against oppression. He embraced his role as a martyr, as a revolutionary, as a hero of the downtrodden. He welcomed his death sentence, seeing it as the ultimate sacrifice, the final act of defiance against a corrupt and unjust system. He believed that his death would inspire others to rise up and overthrow the government. He believed that his death would spark a revolution. But as he sat in his cell, alone and forgotten, he began to have doubts. He wondered if his actions had been justified, if his sacrifice had been worth it, if his death would make a difference. He realized that he had not sparked a revolution, that he had not inspired others to rise up, that he had only succeeded in killing a man and plunging the nation into mourning. He felt a pang of regret, a flicker of doubt, a moment of self-reflection, but he quickly suppressed these feelings, reaffirming his beliefs, steeling his resolve, and preparing himself for his execution. He would not waver, he would not surrender, he would not betray his ideals. The trial of Leon Czolgosz was a swift and brutal affair, a spectacle of justice designed to appease public anger and to deter future acts of violence. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence of his guilt, including eyewitness testimony, forensic evidence, and his own confession. The defense offered no credible defense, arguing only that Czolgosz was mentally unstable and therefore not fully responsible for his actions. The jury deliberated for less than an hour before returning a guilty verdict. Czolgosz was sentenced to death by electrocution. He showed no emotion as the sentence was read, his face impassive, his eyes blank. He had expected this outcome. He had accepted his fate. He was ready to die. On October 29th, 1901, Leon Czolgosz was executed at Auburn State Prison. He was led to the electric chair, strapped in tightly, and given a final opportunity to speak. He remained silent, his lips sealed, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. The warden gave the signal, and the executioner threw the switch. A surge of electricity coursed through Czolgosz's body, causing him to convulse violently. Smoke rose from his head and his body. He was dead within minutes. His body was buried in an unmarked grave on the prison grounds. His name was erased from the history books. His legacy was condemned to oblivion. The assassination of President McKinley had been a tragedy, a crime, and a warning. It had shaken the nation to its core, exposed its vulnerabilities, and tested its resolve. It had led to the death of a beloved leader, the rise of a new president, and the execution of an anarchist. It had changed the course of American history. The nation would never be the same. In the wake of McKinley's assassination, a profound sense of loss and uncertainty settled over the nation. The vibrant optimism of the Pan-American Exposition, the shimmering promise of progress, had been extinguished by the cold, hard reality of violence and political extremism. The nation mourned its fallen leader, a man who had embodied the American dream, a man who had led the country through a period of unprecedented prosperity and expansion. His death left a void that seemed impossible to fill, a void that was amplified by the unknown quantity that was his successor, Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt, a man of vastly different temperament and political philosophy than McKinley, assumed the presidency with a sense of both trepidation and exhilaration. He recognized the immense responsibility that had been thrust upon him, the weight of expectation that rested on his shoulders. He also saw the opportunity to shape the nation in his own image, to implement his progressive agenda, and to leave his own indelible mark on American history. He moved quickly to reassure the nation, to project an image of strength and decisiveness, and to demonstrate his commitment to McKinley's policies. He retained McKinley's cabinet, pledged to uphold the gold standard, and vowed to continue the pursuit of economic prosperity. But he also signalled a shift in direction, a move towards a more assertive foreign policy, a more robust regulation of business, and a more active role for the federal government in addressing social and economic inequalities. He was a reformer, a progressive, a man who believed in the power of government to solve problems and to promote the common good. He saw the assassination of McKinley as a wake-up call, a reminder that the nation faced serious challenges that needed to be addressed. He was determined to tackle these challenges head-on, to confront the forces of corruption and greed, and to build a more just and equitable society. His energy was infectious, his charisma captivating, and his determination unwavering. He quickly won the support of the American people, who were drawn to his strong leadership, his progressive ideals, and his unwavering commitment to the nation. He was a man of action, a man of vision, a man who was determined to lead America into the 20th century. But his rise to power was not without its detractors. Conservative Republicans, who had been comfortable with McKinley's more cautious and business-friendly policies, viewed Roosevelt with suspicion and distrust. They saw him as a radical, a troublemaker, a man who was undermining the foundations of American capitalism. They resisted his reforms, challenged his authority, and sought to limit his power. They feared that he was leading the nation down a path of socialism, that he was destroying the free market, and that he was threatening the American way of life. The battle between Roosevelt and the conservative Republicans became a defining feature of his presidency, a struggle that shaped the political landscape of the nation and that continues to resonate to this day. The legacy of McKinley's assassination extended far beyond the immediate political consequences. It also had a profound impact on American society, culture, and identity. The assassination shattered the illusion of American invincibility, exposing the nation's vulnerability to violence and political extremism. It forced Americans to confront the dark side of their own society, the inequalities, the resentments, and the prejudices that fueled political unrest. It led to a period of soul-searching, a re-evaluation of American values, and a renewed commitment to the ideals of democracy and social justice. The assassination also had a significant impact on the Secret Service, which had been created in 1865 to combat counterfeiting. In the aftermath of McKinley's death, Congress authorized the Secret Service to protect the President of the United States, a task that it continues to perform to this day. The assassination also led to stricter gun control laws, increased security measures at public events, and a greater emphasis on protecting political leaders from harm. The era of innocence, the era of optimism, the era of progress that had characterized the late 19th century came to an abrupt end with the assassination of McKinley. The nation entered a new era, an era of uncertainty, of change, of challenge. The challenges of industrialization, urbanization, and immigration, which had been simmering beneath the surface of American society, now came to the forefront. The nation grappled with issues of poverty, inequality, corruption, and political extremism. The assassination of McKinley served as a catalyst for change, a wake-up call that forced Americans to confront the problems facing their nation and to find solutions that would ensure a more just and equitable future. The legacy of McKinley's assassination is complex and multifaceted. It is a story of tragedy and loss, of violence and extremism, of political upheaval and social change. But it is also a story of resilience and hope, of determination and progress, of the enduring strength of the American spirit. The assassination of McKinley reminds us that democracy is fragile, that freedom is not free, and that the pursuit of progress is never easy. It reminds us that we must be vigilant in protecting our values, in defending our freedoms, and in working towards a more just and equitable society. It reminds us that the legacy of the past is always with us, shaping our present and influencing our future. The assassination of McKinley was a turning point in American history, a moment that changed the course of the nation and that continues to resonate to this day. His death marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one, an era of challenge and opportunity, an era of uncertainty and hope. The legacy of progress interrupted, the shadow of uncertainty cast by the assassin's bullet, continues to linger in the American psyche, a reminder of the fragility of peace, the importance of vigilance, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The ripples of McKinley's assassination spread far beyond the immediate political and social landscape of 1901, leaving an indelible mark on the American narrative, a subtle but persistent echo in the nation's ongoing story. The event served as a stark reminder of the inherent vulnerabilities of democracy, the ever-present threat of political extremism, and the potential for violence to disrupt even the most stable and prosperous societies. The assassination became a cautionary tale, a recurring motif in American literature, film, and popular culture, a symbol of the fragility of peace and the enduring struggle between order and chaos. In the years following McKinley's death, numerous novels, plays, and poems explored the themes of political violence, social unrest, and the consequences of extremism. Authors grappled with the questions of what motivates individuals to commit acts of political violence, what factors contribute to social instability, and what measures can be taken to prevent future tragedies. The assassination served as a backdrop for stories of political intrigue, social commentary, and psychological exploration, providing a rich source of inspiration for artists seeking to understand the complexities of the human condition. In the realm of film, the assassination of McKinley, while rarely depicted directly, served as a thematic touchstone for movies exploring the dark side of American politics, the dangers of unchecked power, and the corrosive effects of corruption. Films often alluded to the event, using it as a shorthand to convey a sense of unease, instability, and the potential for violence to erupt at any moment. The assassination became a symbol of the loss of innocence, the disillusionment with the American dream, and the ever-present threat of political extremism. Beyond the realms of literature and film, the assassination of McKinley also left its mark on American political discourse and policy. The event prompted a renewed focus on security measures for political leaders, leading to increased protection for presidents, vice presidents, and other high-ranking officials. The Secret Service, which had been primarily focused on combating counterfeiting, was given the additional responsibility of protecting the president, a task that it continues to perform to this day. The assassination also fueled debates about gun control, immigration, and political extremism, raising questions about the balance between individual rights and public safety, the integration of immigrants into American society, and the suppression of radical ideologies. These debates continue to this day, reflecting the enduring legacy of McKinley's assassination and its impact on American political consciousness. In the collective memory of the American people, McKinley's assassination remains a somber reminder of the fragility of democracy and the ever-present threat of violence. The event is often invoked in times of political turmoil, social unrest, or national crisis, serving as a cautionary tale and a call to action. It reminds Americans of the importance of vigilance, of tolerance, and of the need to defend the values of peace, justice, and equality. The assassination also serves as a reminder of the human cost of political violence, the devastating impact that it can have on individuals, families, and communities. It compels Americans to reflect on the legacy of hate and extremism, to confront the root causes of social unrest, and to work towards a more just and equitable society for all. The echoes of McKinley's assassination continue to resonate in the American narrative, a subtle but persistent reminder of the challenges and responsibilities of democracy. The event serves as a touchstone for understanding the complexities of American history, the enduring tensions between order and chaos, and the ongoing struggle to create a more perfect union. The assassination of McKinley was a tragedy, a crime, and a warning. But it was also an opportunity to learn from the past, to address the challenges of the present, and to build a better future for all Americans. The legacy of progress interrupted, the shadow of uncertainty cast by the assassin's bullet, continues to linger in the American psyche, a reminder of the fragility of peace, the importance of vigilance, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The echoes of McKinley's assassination serve as a call to action, urging Americans to embrace their responsibilities as citizens, to defend their democratic values, and to work towards a more just and equitable world. The story of McKinley's assassination is a story of loss and grief, of violence and extremism, of political upheaval and social change. But it is also a story of resilience and hope, of determination and progress, of the enduring strength of the American spirit. It is a story that continues to be told, to be remembered, and to be learned from as the nation continues its long and arduous journey towards a more perfect union. The assassination of President McKinley, William, remains a poignant and profound chapter in the American narrative, a chapter that serves as both a cautionary tale and a source of inspiration for